Okay, here we are in the third video I'm recording commentary over, and we get a message from Bogarus. Yeah, very funny. He used his golem to mind control all those birds. But, well, at this point I'm trying to throw them away anyway and replace them with undead. Also a funny thing, if this weren't a gimmick game, I would have actually better units. And hey, that's a magic tree over there. Well, anyway, I want to finally use my gimmick squad to burn some vampires to see how this will work out. And I've started my undead machine. Now I have 3 mages per turn, and from now on every turn we'll see another one. And oh, that wasn't really at all. More unrest and more stupid monster boars. And to top this off, one of my leaders got killed by the death rain from above every turn. Well, shit happens. Time to build some roads, I guess. Well, our income is over 20k gold, and upkeep is only about 8.6k, and this means exactly jack and shit, because tons of money are being used to recruit mages and more units, because while I'm willing to throw away hundreds of them, I also need to keep the pressure up until my undead armies are ready. And I'm seeing black candles in my capital again. Yeah. Gav at this time is trying to push his dominion westward to combat Bogarus more effectively, and because vampires are immortal, but immortality only works in your own dominion. Apparently, if people just disbelieve vampire immortality hard enough, they stop being immortal and you can cut them down. They die hard, but they will stay dead. But if they are in their own dominion, then they will simply reform themselves back in the enemy capital or some shit like this. I'm not really an expert on vampires, but I think it's like that. Anyway, this of course means beating vampires in their own dominion is rather foolish, but I'm kind of out of options here, since my dominion is weak already, and trying to push it with my priests would take far too long. On the other hand, this also means that if Bogarus wants to use their vampires, they either have to hold them on the defensive or risk losing them, because obviously if he pushes me backwards with his vampires will leave his dominion, and suddenly I will destroy every single one who dies. But that's not really an option for him to even make right now, because I've pushed him far enough back that there's tons of his own dominion, so he can freely move his dumb vampires around. And yes, now I remember why the other 2 turns were so short. I think I didn't record the tons and tons of scripting and moving. This turn, however, had the recording twice as long, so I should have been wound. I really should. But well, I'm too stupid to live, so now you can marvel at me very slowly scripting armies, moving units around. To remember, the guys with swords and shields and black wings are basically the Raven Guard. The black winged ones are one of the more spooky aligned Calamite tribes, and I've used them extensively for my... Or are they I think I have even multiple of those guys. Shit, that has been far too long since the game is over, and I've waited too long to make this commentary, now I don't even know. I think they are not the Raven Guard Buster, but some other guys who also use shields and swords and come from that tribe, but I don't think they're stealthy. I honestly don't remember. Yes, I'm still trying to not be confused with all my units and commanders, so I give dumb and stupid names, which are often immediately obsolete when guys are getting mind controlled or killed left and right. But anyway, that's just something you will have to do if you're not willing to make tons of notes. Man, I wish I had a photographic memory that would make Dominions 4 that much easier. But I don't, so I instead have to deploy those weird little mnemonic names like DS plus number to tell me that this guy is a death mage and a support mage instead of a real combat mage or whatever I thought. In this case, he is spamming hordes of skeletons, so I'm guessing he is meant to be main combat mage. Still remember. And here I'm preparing one of my weird little lizard shamans to cast anti-magic to protect my people from stuff like master and slave. Protect a little bit, after all, giving more magic resistance isn't the same as being immune, so if that giant army gets caught by a magic golem or some dumb shit, then well, then they are fucked. Especially if they're under attack, because the defenders always go first. Because they're the defenders or something, don't know, don't care. And this means, of course, if the defenders have the strong magic shit, then they will go first and drag you. Obviously, however, you can't just let your army stand around do nothing. Sometimes you have to do something proactive, and then you risk something. Sometimes you're lucky and march somewhere where your enemy doesn't expect you, sometimes you're unlucky. Anyway, I have fortified this weird choke point to hell and back, and I'm still trying to get through this dump passage between the mountains. The other mountain pass is mine up in the north, but down in the south, after my initial success, there's some back and forth, with me losing some and then gaining some again. Basically the only thing I'm doing at the moment after my invasion is holding my ground and allowing Gav to use his obscenely large armies to slowly walk through Bogoros. So in essence, while at the time I was still deluding myself into thinking I have a chance to win, I was actually just helping Gav to win faster. Also, now I've seen those guys. The stealthy ones are black-winged, but they have two swords instead of sword and shield. So the sword and shield guys are just normal infantry units. Well, normal, they can't fly after all, and are a bit more flimsy than infantry of other nations. But hell, being able to fly is incredibly good. And remember, some of my units can even fly in storms, so there is no defense against them, and you can't just wreck their shit with easy spells like Earthquake. No, you have to think a bit harder to stop them, or they will right be in your face. Which is one of the things I like when playing a Kalom nation. It's just, well, early and middle age Kalom are all about air magic, and if that gets too much to you, then you have late age, which is about death, but kind of wimpy death, where you have to stubbornly fight against the grain the entire time to keep everything running, and quite frankly I'm not sure I will play late age Kalom again, at least not in multiplayer, because in multiplayer you can't just experiment around. Well, I'm doing it anyway, because I'm stupid, but if you want to win games, I recommend not taking Late Age Calum. Late Age Calum is one of those joke nations. After all, what is funnier than taking a bunch of guys who scream air and then let them summon undead monstrosities? That's kind of funny in a way. But overall, if you can't somehow stomp all your enemies in turn 20 or something, then middle and late game will arrive and then you will struggle. At least you have tons of good units to keep you up, and you will generally have enough death magic to have some nasty surprises ready for someone who just geared up to beat your air magic. On the other hand, if someone gears up like mad with vampires and other undead shit, then you'll be well on a losing end a bit. The one thing you have going for you is if you go death, then it's best to have the opposite dominion powers than you would imagine a death nation to have. Because while it seems like a good idea to kill lots of people, even your own, to have enough corpses for more undead, that's really not a way you can play this nation and even have a chance of standing up. There are undead nations like Lemuria or Middle Age Armor, where killing your own people is kind of a necessity, because your death magic is ridiculously strong. Everyone will try to kill you, and killing all your people will mean that they will be forced to essentially raid through endless provinces of hostile desert with no one living in them, hard to defend, and they will give nothing to your enemies. It's kind of like fighting a zombie guerrilla war. So in those cases it makes sense if you go and make your pretender have weird death powers. And I'm not talking about magic, of course, but about all those symbols you can see next to that white candle. That's the power of the Dominion. And there's clashing a lot, because only half of that shit is mine. The other stuff is leaking in from Borgarus Dominion. And hey, as I said, if you have your super death nation with tons of death gems and tons of monsters you have to summon anyway, then you can go fuck money and take all the bad options just to make your pretender or your nation even more powerful. If you however take a nation like Late Age Calum, where death is just one of the options, then you will fuck yourself over something fierce if you try this, because essentially you need your living units to keep you long enough alive so you can change to an undead nation. I mean, hell, even my really good death mages are still alive. I need death gems to even turn them into something like a white mage so they can't survive shit normal units can't survive. All this taken together is you have a hybrid nation is the term, I think. You can play normally and you can play like a death nation, but you have to combine both something into some kind of bad compromise or you won't get off the ground. And of course, when endgame comes around, a bad compromise won't let you win, at least not easily. I guess someone could find a way. I mean, I did a lot of things wrong, for example, not noticing that Pangea was basically dead after a certain time, and I just let Garth, what was the word? Take everything. That was bad. Another bad thing I did was underestimating how really nasty all those mind control spells can be if you have tons of units on the field, because if even a large but still small portion of your army suddenly changes sides, Well, the enemy army is still there, and now looks at you fighting yourself, so even if Master and Slave and spells like that turn out to be rather wimpy, it's still not good for you, because it's like your part of your army will suddenly fight you, and well, that's all there is to say, really. And in a gimme game like this with really huge army, it can be an incredibly clusterfuck, especially when mages change sides too. That's twice as annoying. The only good thing is I think it also eliminates their scripting, so they will mostly use whatever dumb spell goes through their mind. And I'm not even sure about this. I think mind control units are feeble-minded and don't have any magic powers left, but don't quote me on that. Remember, this game is over for, well, I think we ended it in October or November 2016, so last year especially. That's a lot of time. And sadly, back then, yeah, that's another error I made, because for most of the game I did recordings and then had the idea to later make after commentary like I'm doing right now, but that tended to take so much time. It would have been better if I forced myself to use another software which would have allowed me to make commentary right then and there instead of waiting to do it afterwards. Of course, it also didn't help that a couple of months ago I changed my PC to something newer, more modern, and of course I had to do a lot of shit to migrate everything I need, and some programs didn't make it. They either didn't want to run on Windows 10, or there was no version to run on Windows 10 anyway. Or while searching for them I found better programs which work better and have always been better, and I just didn't know they exist. So a lot of things changed in all those weeks where I didn't do anything visible for you guys. And well, now that I'm back and making new episodes of this Let's Play, well, it's too late to change all this shit, because I have all those recordings still, and I have to make after commentary. It will get a bit complicated in the end, because when the game was nearly over I changed to some intermediate solution where I could make commentary immediately, and so I have some episodes where there is commentary, and man, I will be horrified to see what dumb shit I've talked about last year. So anyway, back to the game. I'm rerouting some units here. I'm trying to outflank Borgaros here down in the south by moving armies down there. I mean, he can't see what I'm doing, but I'm hoping that when I'm finally move mages to support them, that you will be surprised by how strong that flanking attack is and lose another castle, maybe even more. It depends on how many of those units survive the battles I'm planning. Attack large monsters, just in case when a golem shows up. And just in case one of those guys is lucky enough to not only survive the Master and Slave, but also get close enough to the golem. You can never know after all. So now I have two armies getting ready to push the offensive, and a third army is forming up in my secret undead factory province. And that's it really for this turn. Also, as you can see, I have some Astral mages here ready to support my new offensive. And I'm also moving units to the east, because I was still thinking about what I should do with Pangaea. It's also forging for my growing stack of Calamite mages making corpse constructs, and here's my here are my Mount Fiends with their larger and larger number of undeads under their command. This is basically what I want to do in the future. Well, let's see how this works out, huh? Liploini out.